This is Radically Alive Women's Edgecast.
Welcome to Radically Alive Women Edgecast, dear Bernice Raabis.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. I was glad to come across you in a very organic way and could sense that you're a woman I would like to speak to. I heard that you're the founder of Dance the Medicine, which is a collaborative team approach to bringing conscious dance into the world, the space holding skills, the music, and really for change in the world, is what I understand.
Yeah.
And I also have learned that you are a mother and you have a very specific way of moving in the world that I would love to ask you some questions about.
Okay, yeah.
And before we go there, will you say something about who you are right now in this moment?
And a woman traveling with her 14-year-old daughter who has made the choice to accept a nomadic lifestyle, to accept living nomadically and following her education and on a practical level, but also the signs, the following what makes me and her feel radically alive, what seems most important, and just prioritizing that. And it's a very different way of living than is common, and yet it also seems just so actually accessible to any of us, even in micro moments. Yeah.
And that's what fascinates me, amongst other things about you, is this way of moving in the world, which from what I have seen and experienced, I would label as like a feminine way of moving through the world by listening deeply. Also, not just the rational mind, but really the sensations in your body, the information you see and you receive.
Yeah.
Can you say something about that? How do you move in the world?
I would say that this is a way I've just always been, almost as though I don't know how to actually live any other way. There have been times when I have been very, hemmed in by schedules, by timetables, that sort of thing. But then even then, there's again these micro moments where I can just pay attention to, sometimes it will come in the form of I remember once a grasshopper landed on a wall. And it wasn't so much that the grasshopper had a message for me as a message of stop, pay attention. What do you really feel in this moment? And actually in that moment, it was that there was a person who was standing in front of me who was somebody who was not a safe human. And I remember noticing that in the moment and relaying it to somebody. And then later them being in a situation where that bit of knowledge helped them to really clearly turn around and walk away from this person. And so, did the grasshopper didn't give me a message, didn't whisper something in my ear, but more he just made this thunk on the wall. And it just was this moment of just really go in and listen. What do you feel? And it was something that I felt in the pit of my stomach. Yeah. And so that's been a way that I have lived my entire life. And I would say that it was only when I was about 12, 13 years old that I realized not everybody lived that way.
And so now you're moving without a solid base somewhere, and without, this is my home.
Yes. I actually sold my home and downsized everything that me and my daughter have. And I moved it into storage and just began moving and following things that are practical. The very first place we moved once we sold our house was to Ireland. And that was a practical choice based on the fact that the next event that I would teach was in Ireland. And so if I have a 2-month stretch before I have to teach that course, why not have that be the place that I go? So in some ways, I think that moving very feminine in the world can sort of have this connotation of not being practical. But it was a really practical choice. It was just maybe not practical to those around me, because they might think, well, if you're Canadian, stay in Canada, live here, and then go there right before the event. So that's how we're living. And then I do have the practical structure around, I go to the places where I am teaching events. When I'm teaching online, I need a solid base. So we'll go and live somewhere where I have a solid base for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, because that's how long I'm teaching these courses for. However, how I choose where, that's a lot more led by what is open and available at that time, which satisfies a need or a dream, or that just fits. It's like a puzzle piece that fits. So a for instance would be that we're going to go to Egypt for March. And why Egypt? Because as a child, I used to look in the mirror and think to myself, I'm Egyptian. What am I doing living in Canada? I just had this childhood thought. And I've been fascinated by Egypt, as has my daughter. And since all of a sudden something ended up in my inbox that said that there was an opening at a World School Hub for exactly the time period we needed, I just decided, oh, this is where we're meant to go. And so meant to go doesn't always mean that I'm necessarily, hearing voices or following some script from a spiritual call. It's just, this makes practical sense. So let's do this, even though, again, from the outside, it might seem impractical to go and live in Egypt for 6 weeks. Yeah.
I feel glad it's like a holistic approach. It's not just the mind, but the mind also has a place there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's a big part of our work is that my work, what we teach at Dance the Medicine, one of the, what we call the 5 pathways is psychosomatic exploration. And so it's essentially, you've got the psyche, which is not necessarily all mind. There's the practical side, your thoughts, your beliefs, the things that are coming in. And then you've got the somatic side. So how does my body interact with all of the information both flowing in and flowing out of my psyche? And to just pendulate between the two. And that what you feel and where you feel it, and where that then leads to back to your psyche. That's a dance that matters. There's just so much information there. It's like there's an ancient technology there. So it is very practical, somatically based, and sometimes can seem, out there.
And it seems like this, that's what you teach in your dance the medicine courses, which are, it's like your conscious dance modality where people learn to be in their body as well with the music. Is that right?
Yeah, well, so actually something that's really important to me to convey is that Dance the Medicine isn't a modality. That what we are is we're this sort of refuge for those who want to include dance movement into their practice, or they want to build a dance community around any ethos, whatever they believe. They can come to us and we will help them to understand how to take the belief system or what they want to deliver and to just deliver it through the body and into a musical set so that people can just dance with whatever that is. So whatever modality somebody might have or what's important to them that they want to take into the dance, come to us and we'll help you understand embodiment skills and deliver you different somatic tools so that you can then go and build the dance community you want to build. I built the dance community I wanted to build in my little town of Nelson, British Columbia, and loved leading that community for 10 years. But I'm not trying to have people recreate what I built. I'm just giving them the skills because the mission statement of Dance the Medicine is to infect the world with dance communities. Just like help them pop up everywhere so that everywhere people have opportunities to go and dance. That's why it's called Dance the Medicine. To dance whatever their medicine is. It's not me trying to deliver what I believe about the world. Yeah.
Why dance?
Oh, it's just that one was kind of predetermined when I came in.
Yeah.
And when I was a young child, I was actually a ski racer. That was what my parents decided. My parents are British. They moved to Canada because of mountains and the snow, and my dad wanted us to be ski racers. And I was the one who was in the living room holding like Sean Cassidy album covers and like listening to the music and looking at the cover and reading I just was obsessed with music and dancing. And then when I was 16, I was in an accident where I They thought I broke my back. And I remember going in the ambulance to the hospital and thinking, just lying there and being overjoyed with the thought, now I can dance. Because I think on some level, I knew I wasn't badly injured. And that now they couldn't make me ski race anymore, that now I would have a good enough reason. And I left from there and I began to go to all these dance classes. I went on to university and took dance in university because I knew it was really important. But then I found the shadow side of performance, like dance as performance. So it being about holding lines that are beautiful to others to witness and pushing yourself to be the best and competing against other dancers. And so it took my love of dance, and in a way it made it I really found the shadow of it first. Then went on to motherhood at a very young age because I had 3 children before I was 30. And that overtook my life. But at the base of it all was always dance. And we moved to quite isolated places in Canada. And when I got to a place where I could begin to dance again with other people and educate myself in these little pieces connected to how I wanted to present dance in the world, I just began to lap them up. And so it was sort of there from the beginning, but I had to go through a big journey to have it be at the center of my life. And now it's at the center of my life, and the irony is that I don't dance as much as I wish I could. So, yeah. So dance, that part I came through with that one.
And what is it that you know about it, even though it comes naturally? What do you know? Why do people need dance? What is the medicine of dance and music?
And music. So we are born with a technology called entrainment, where we actually begin to regulate rhythms with other humans when we're in proximity to them. And this is like a natural inborn part of being human that helps us form pods and tribes that keep us safe because we are like pack animals. And the most powerful stimulus for entrainment is music or a beat. And so with this, we begin to, if you go into a grocery store and a song comes on, if you begin to look around, you'll find that people are walking to the beat. They're tapping to the beat. They're swaying to the beat. And then we begin to, you're more likely to actually begin to interact and bond with another person if you're syncing in these different ways. You don't just synchronize in the body, it can affect your brain waves, your magnetic waves. All these things come together. And so we've got this magic entrainment built into us for us to connect. Music then helps us connect with it. And then when we begin to move to it, we've got these mirror neurons. So we're dancing with each other, we're beginning to mirror each other's movements, move together. And again, it's bonding and connecting us. And so there's all sorts of science, which I couldn't possibly do justice to actually speaking about why dance is good for us and why it helps us to bond to one another. But I know it's out there. I know I believe it. And then I've seen it at play, where we take people for 7 days, we'll do a training or a retreat, and people have these transformative experiences and they make these bonds that last years and years. We have a lot of people who come and then they say they're going to change their job or they're going to leave their relationship. And we always give this sort of, give it a week. You've had a transformative experience. Just make sure out there in the world, this is truly what you want to do. But I've just been privileged to watch it so often that I just know it works. Just know it works.
And it seems also, regardless of science, it seems such an ancient technology.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that, with children, you see them, as soon as they can get on their feet and a beat starts to happen, they'll start. And they get this look in their eye and they're like, look what I'm doing. And the smile comes and it's something that's built into us. And then it's cross cultures. You even look at that there are religions that have banned it. And I think, again, that to me is a sign, if it's so powerful that it has to be banned, there's something there. So, yeah.
Somehow you took this medicine of yours
Yeah.
and created something powerful out of it.
Yeah.
And as we're looking at how do women take that which is their medicine and really go full in with that, I'm curious whether you have anything about what it took for you to honor that or to really go full in with that.
That's funny because that's the one that I quite often, when I'm like driving or I'm on a plane or sitting in a lounge somewhere, and if I have time, I'll kind of think, how did I do this? Because I get asked that a lot. How did you go from having a dream to building a company? And I certainly never set out to start a company. It still blows my mind that I have a corporation. But that was just taking care of, I want to do this. I want to put this into the world. How am I going to do this? What does the next step require? Oh, okay, it requires this bureaucracy. I'll take care of that bureaucracy. I certainly didn't have this goal in mind when I started out dedicating my life to dance. It was just that every step of the way, I would just keep going. There's been so many times when I thought I was dead in the water. Like it was just the first time I was in a company doing trainings, it was under the name Ecstatic Dance International with another person. And I just got sort of cut off in the knees at that one. I got kind of forced out of the company, I'll say. And I remember thinking, that's it. My life is over. This part of my life is over. I can't do it without that name. I can't do it without that person. I'm too small for this. And then I just got a call from somebody who said, there's this online conference happening and they want somebody to represent ecstatic dance and they want you, which I find to be ironic because I've never run anything called an ecstatic dance, but I have DJ'd many ecstatic dances and some of the bigger ecstatic dancers in the world, they were my students at times. So when I got the call, I thought, okay, if somebody else thinks I can do this, if somebody else wants me, who am I to not step into that and just say, okay. So I stepped in, and long story short, it just sort of began. Lots of the people who had worked with me before came with me, and we would just book a date, and we would put it out there on the internet, and then people would sign up, and we'd do one, and we go, okay, what can we fix? What can we make better? What really worked? And then we would book another date. And so much of how I got here is just through sheer tenacity of not giving up and making lots of mistakes along the way. So many mistakes along the way, and being okay with that and just learning from it and just keeping on going. Yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, a little bit cute.
Yeah.
I'm with a question somehow related to culture as well, where I asked you, how do you want me to introduce you? And is it a company or is it an institute?
Yeah.
For medicine, and you said something about, no, it's a cooperative.
So we have 3 different curriculums. So we have the leadership training, which is for people who really want to build a dance community. They might want to build an ecstatic dance in their town, or they just know that they want to more entrepreneurially, they want to run something. And so that's the leadership training. And so that just came to me because I realized that not only did I struggle with not knowing how to actually just do the business side of things. I had to dream. Yeah, but how do you rent a venue? How do you find a team? How do you do those really practical things? And because I really struggled with that, once I figured out how to do parts of it, but more importantly, I found other people that helped me or did it far better than me and brought this team together, I realized that if we could just bring and pool this knowledge and then help others, then we have the best chance of helping as many dance communities in the world spring up as possible. There's this big part of the idea of competition, that you don't want to help somebody else build the same thing you built because they might take your customers. That to me is so the opposite of how the universe works, or at least how it has worked for me and what I see in the world, is the more popular dancing in a sober way, in community, for dance's sake, the more of that pops up in the world, the more normalized it is, and the more opportunities there will be for more people to dance. So there was the team, I would find the people, the students who I taught or the other people who were doing well, and I would say, hey, let's get together and let's teach others to do this. And that would weed out those who were really afraid of the competition side. And it would bring in those who were collaborative. And then another big hole in the, when I was training, because mostly I trained to be a dance facilitator. And I trained with a man called Vin Marti, or that's what his name was when he taught me. And I stepped into a room with him many years ago and just went, whatever magic this man has, I want to learn from him, because he just can facilitate and guide a space in dance like magic. It's nothing I'd ever seen. So I learned from him, but within that curriculum, there was very little education around music. So much like there was the leadership side of things where no one was teaching us how to do this, so I wanted to help others make that happen. There was the facilitation side of things, which I was taught by him, and then started to add really myself to how to facilitate a group of people. But then there was the music side of things, and there was nothing out there for music, nothing at all. There was maybe one online course for how to create a musical soundscape for a conscious dance journey, let's call it that. And that was where I was just like, that would be fun. And so that's the first DJ training was born. And I will talk to people and I'll say I have a conscious dance and music school is often how I'll present it to like border crossing guards. What do? I run a dance and music school. But when you say, I teach people to DJ, people are like, whoa, it has like a whole other allure to it. And the truth is, I was willing to learn DJ software because it was so important to me to deliver these really great soundscapes. So that's the three things we teach. We teach the DJ side of things, how to put together the music for conscious dance, the leadership, how to run the business side, and then facilitation was something that I wasn't going to teach because I felt there's so many amazing modalities out there already. And then I just continually have students coming back to me and people on my team coming back to me and saying, but people are asking. And they want to guide, I don't know if it was they wanted to guide how I guided, but they wanted to learn from me. We were already here doing the DJ thing, we're doing the leadership thing. What about this facilitation thing? And then at the end of the day, I would actually say that is maybe why I started this journey, is because I really love teaching people in a non-dogmatic way how to guide movement to deliver what it is they want to deliver. So yeah, again, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but the team part, that team part is in there because I can't do it alone. And I guess that would also be a thing that I was going to say in terms of how did I get here? Not alone. I could never have gotten here alone. It's by finding the people along the way who want to be part of the journey and then letting them go also. When something else grabs them and they want to go a different direction, that's probably the more painful one. Letting them go and just trusting that they'll loop back in if they're meant to. And if they don't ever come back in, it doesn't matter because there's a part of them in the work.
It seems like you're creating a teamwork culture or like a collaborative culture intentionally.
Yeah.
And that already takes us out of patriarchal culture.
Oh, yeah.
That's where it becomes culturally creative.
Yeah.
And it seems like you take a stand for another culture without maybe naming it. So I don't know whether you do that.
It's actually one of the things that when you come into the facilitation training, one of the first kind of guidance that you will get is, here's this big thick manual with lots of lined pages in it. Anything you hear from me or your classmates or any of the other teachers that you think, oh, that's a great idea for leading a dance. That's a great facilitation idea. I want you to take it. I want you to write it down so you remember it. And I want you to deliver it. Because how you deliver it will be different than how I delivered it. And there's this big culture actually. So there's a name that there's different modalities out there. And some of them I'm a student of. And one of them is Open Floor. Open Floor is an amazing collaboration of kind of a core 4 people that branched into being from a whole bunch of people that came out of the works of 5 rhythms. And one of the core attributes that they have is attribution. That just give attribution. So if you get an idea and it was inspired by somebody else, take that idea, give some attribution, tell the world who you were inspired by, and then do it in your own way. And that's not then stealing from them, that's honoring them. Or a cool DJ way of saying it is everything's a remix. You know, almost every single song that you will hear, you will find that there's a riffs from all different things that come in, and you could pick it apart and say it's copying this, 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 and this. But actually, it's just this remix of bringing things back together and blending them in a new way. And I think there's maybe nothing that's brand new ever anymore. Maybe there never even has been. It's just this blending of things to create new things. And that if we try to carve out and say, this is mine, right away we're just cutting ourselves off from creativity. So almost I never thought of it as patriarchal, but I can see that it's patriarchal. And to me, it's sort of like the death. If I decided to do that, that might be the death of my company.
The interesting bit is that this is such standard footwear in many environments, like copyrighted,
Yeah.
and then it's mine, and then I can monetize it and so on. And I totally get it. Like, this is how it dies, really.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it's interesting because we haven't, I have 3 manuals that I have written. Together, they're over 1,000 pages. And I have not copywritten them. I don't know if that's a smart thing to say to the world, but I haven't. Because I'm just like, I would put so much effort and money and time into this, like, mine. And I worry almost that would stop the flow of what comes to me. And people, we have sent out PDFs to our students, and PDFs can just be sent anywhere. And especially now with AI, you could just take my manual, feed it in, and say, write this in a different tone, write this in a different voice, write this in a way where I can't be caught for copyright infringement. And it would just get spit out. So now it's almost like laughable. Why would I even try? It's not even possible anymore. So let it go. And the other thing is that what we write and what we teach in like the way of what you would read in a manual or in a slideshow is just like the tip of the iceberg of what you get when you come together with me and my glorious team. Like, we just create these really amazing experiences. And yes, people are there to train and to learn, but we consistently get the feedback of this was so much more than a training. And that maybe that's actually the whole training thing, the company thing, maybe that's just all a big illusion for finding a way to bring groups of people together to be authentic, to be with each other, to listen to kick-ass music, and to dance. And that just from that alchemy comes a different thing for each of the people there that is whatever they needed in that moment to go forward in their lives. And we met at a rite of passage. And really that's what I was at, this beautiful rite of passage where I met you, and just went, oh, that's what I'm doing. And we're just actually creating these rites of passage and giving them different names to help my fellow humans transition in the world, because that helps me transition in the world. Yeah. And I was thinking about this today. I can trace everything I do back to ultimately like a selfish act of, this makes my life better. You know, I'm here with you in this glorious space that we're in because I said yes to going to the rite of passage, and because this opportunity presented itself. I thought, yeah, I want to go and do that. And there's what we're doing right here, right now, but there's all the other things attached to it that I don't even know, the threads.
Yes, and really one skill that I see in you, or what you're doing, is that comes back to the beginning of moving nomadically in the world in feminine ways, is that you are flexible enough to shift direction or to do everything that is necessary to then actually last minute jump into that rite of passage event.
Yes.
so that you could be there, because
were
you
the
know
last
it needs
sign
to
up.
be, so that you could be there and not go like, well, no, but
Yeah.
I have this and this and this and this already planned for the next time.
And I do feel it's important to speak to that that's something that I'm blessed to have in my life now at 52, with a lot of stability behind me. I wasn't always there. You know, I was once a 23-year-old woman who was just married and about to have my second child. And I did not have this flexibility. I did not have the financial security, or I mean, financial security isn't the right term. It's just the finances. You know, I couldn't have bought a plane ticket. So at that point in my life, there are points in my life where I have not been able to be this spontaneous. But there was a flexibility to follow threads even back then that led to, I guess, longer and longer threads. That this is the culmination of a life where I had flexibility and I was willing to do kind of crazy things. I think there's, we get called brave a lot for the way that we live. It's so funny. The thing that surprises people the most is that we can travel with we each have a carry-on suitcase and then a personal item, and that's all that we travel with. And we have a storage unit in Canada where there's some of our things, not many things, but some things. And that really it's just a life where I could pair and get rid of and get rid of and get rid of so many things that I really didn't need, and be willing to take these journeys, which maybe, I've had many times I thought to myself, am I crazy that I have chosen this? And maybe a little bit, and that's a part of it. So yeah, I think it's important to shout out that I am in a privileged position to be able to do this now, but this privilege partially came from a lifetime of being willing to follow threads and make choices which were out of the ordinary.
And I've been living nomadically in the last 2.5 years, and been here in this place for 4 weeks or so.
Yeah.
So I still feel very much nomadic, and I see how it so relates to what you say about being willing to make crazy decisions, or in my case, it would be more like this unwavering commitment to not settle for something that doesn't feel right, or to go with what feels right, to be willing to listen.
Yeah.
To listen to the next impulse.
Yeah.
And be a yes to that as well.
Yeah.
And being willing to change course, and being willing to not own so many resources and rather let them flow through.
Yeah.
And let myself move with that. And in my experience, that's also a quite feminine way of moving, of knowing that we are the earth in a way, like a representation of the earth that can move and create from what is here and in connection with others. Like just really leaning into your team. Like this, I imagine that is how you create across the globe, is that you have these collaborators across the world that create events, and you can go there and show up and support and be supported. And it's like being really in this web of connection, which makes some resources just no longer necessary to own. Yeah, because there's the relationality of people.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll have these people who work as a part of our team. Sometimes there's like core members of our team that have been with us a really long time. Sometimes people who come in and they just do 1 or 2. And they're also then bringing us people within their communities who have been inspired by them. Like, I want to do this. Like, I showed up in your town in Italy, and I came to this dance, and I thought, wow, my community needs this. And so we're getting students through this web of inspiration. And then should that then lead to us doing a retreat or an event, let's say in Italy, then as I travel through Italy, I find places to stay. Because, it seems almost criminal that it is so expensive to sleep. Such a wild, weird thing about being human is that we often have to pay the biggest amount of what we earn to have a place to be out of consciousness, to be in dream time. And then when I'm traveling through a place, like this lovely place, and I get given a bed for a night, the amount of resources that it saves me to just be given a bed for a night, or a bed for a week, a space to cook my food for a week. It's really, I guess that's something that I find to be so patriarchal is we're having to constantly pay out for base needs and survival when, like I talked about, our ancient technology of entrainment is to build communities so we always have a place to sleep. We always have a place to be fed. And so it's so kind of, like a rebellious act in the world to travel and to stay with other people. I think this is actually how Airbnb was born. And then what happened to it? It got swooped up by a corporation. And so it's this beautiful way of weaving into the world. And there's this constant reciprocity. But that took faith. And one of the things that you said is like leaning into, does it feel good? And so that's important, to pay attention to what's in the body and what feels good, and then make a commitment and go forward and know that most likely you're going to end up at a point where it doesn't feel good. You know, that's something in the sweat. That's something that in the sweat, it's not, you don't go into the sweat for a spa day. You know, the sweats I've been in, often you're sitting on mud and there's like cedar boughs, but they're actually a lot of sticks and they're poking into you and you're up against somebody and maybe somebody's knee is in your back and it's not comfortable. But you know that you made the commitment to be there. Know that this technology of Sweat Lodge, you know, for me, and I know for you as well, like there's something really transformative in the lodge. And so we go because it feels good in our body, but it's not going to feel good the whole time. And so there are times when we're traveling and I think, what am I doing? Why am I in this crazy airport lounge or in this choosing to route myself through this country, which is very expensive or uncomfortable, and why am I even here? There will be times when I completely doubt everything I'm doing, and that's with dance to medicine as well. When COVID hit, I was just like, oh no, what's going to happen? And you just go, it's uncomfortable. Right now, I don't see how this is going to work out well. And I have a choice. I can give up or I can take a step forward and just keep going. And then eventually I get into another time of comfort. So
yeah, I'm with you. What I mean was that it seems right, like that is the right thing from the inner knowing. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. Transformation without becoming uncomfortable is just impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
What I've learned in being nomadic is that it's really important that I create a good relationship with my fear, to use it consciously so that I'm not frozen and cannot move anymore, that I need to lean into it and learn how to use it to receive the next bit of information.
Totally. Yeah.
And move with that.
Yeah. And sometimes for me, it's just recognizing, like, just sitting in a moment and feeling so uncomfortable. I mean, like, what am I uncomfortable about? And I realize there isn't even an about. I just am coursing with fear. And that I don't need to attach it. What am I afraid of? Sometimes that's important, you know. I'm afraid of the saber-toothed tiger that's coming towards me. That's important to move out of the way. But sometimes it's just a matter of, I'm fearful. This is scary. My choice I've made is pretty out there. And there's a lot of fear that comes with this. This is just the feeling of fear. And somewhere along the way, somebody gave me this beautiful saying, which is so simple. And it is that no feeling is forever. And so that when I'm feeling the fear, even if I can't sort of dig myself out of it or solve it, or to just remember, this will pass. And that just helps to alleviate the fear a little bit until I come out the other end. Yeah. And that no feeling lasts forever is something I then also apply when things are really, really good. You know, and remember, soak this in. This is so good right now. Put a bit of this in your pocket. So when things are really not good, you can just take a little piece out and be like, remember that time? Yeah. Remember that sunny, beautiful day next to the Abel Tasman Park? And the air smelled of cookies and the sunlight was everywhere. Because sometimes that will be all I have to help me through a hard moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, what I've been traveling with is a distinction between feelings and emotions.
Oh,
where
right.
Feelings don't last forever. They last for about 3 minutes and then they pass.
Yeah.
And therefore right now, like a fear might be here, as you say, and it comes and it says, oh, well, yeah, I'm totally out of my comfort zone. Of course, it's scary here.
Yeah.
Because only outside the comfort zone I get scared. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be scared.
Yeah.
So it's got this information and energy that supports me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with other feelings. And the emotion is more like something old. Maybe I'm scared of, I don't know, I'm scared of getting mugged because I was mugged before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's something that could last long. Some feelings or emotions in that case, they can just last forever, and they can just hang around because they don't get to move through the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I'm glad for this. When you're glad, it's not going to last forever. So really embrace that, and it's like, now, the time to replenish with that in all the cells.
Yes, and one of the things that we teach in the facilitator training, and I would just say it actually just comes from the core of my work. You asked me before we start, do you have a practice? I said, oh yeah, I've got a practice, and but it's not mine. It's in many technologies. We call it the track and follow practice. And so it's basically just sitting with yourself, and it's as simple as, I'm sitting here with myself. What do I feel? Like on a physical level, what do I feel? Okay, I feel tension in this cranial line I've got going on either side of my temples. And just sitting with that feeling, and then noticing, is that feeling connected to another feeling in the body? Is there something else that's also present with that? Or is there an emotion that's present with that? Because there is feelings. We say, I feel, and it's interesting because sometimes we're talking about emotion and sometimes we're talking about a physical feeling. But we still use that term feel because that's that dance between the psyche and the soma. That it's all this feeling that we have, and they're connected to emotions, but then also connected to the solid state of our body. And that it's all just constantly moving, and that sometimes, as you say, a feeling is attached to an emotion that is a trauma, or even to take it to the other side, an elation, something that we experienced that was really, really good, and there's a connection to that. And that we can come back to that thread of that time or that moment in our lives, because we're obviously remembering it because it has something to teach us. And sometimes it is to let go. Maybe it's something that happened to us, a terrible trauma. We were attacked, like you said, mugged. What did that teach me, and why do I still hold it in my body? It's an important piece to come back to, but then also not get stuck there.
Yeah, I agree. It's like this, it shows itself to be healed, to be transformed, so that the space becomes free for being present in this moment.
Yeah. I think that I had a fairly traumatic childhood, and every once in a while I'll be able to, oh, right, that thing that happened to me, but there won't be that sense around it where it used to really draw me back, where I couldn't let it go and it would draw me back. And then now I remember it as a remembering. I know what happened to me, but I can usually sort of get whatever, lesson, quote unquote, lesson was attached to it. And I thought, if I was to fill up my life with only remembering all the really bad things, or even only remembering all the really good things in there, that just would be not enough presence to just be right here with what's happening. And then I'll find new traumas, and I'll find new relations, and that I don't know, it's just like, I guess that's just part of Earth School. That's what we're here doing, walking in Earth School. What's the next experience? What's the next experience? Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything you want to say to finish?
Just that I could talk to you forever. and that this is so important, this work of speaking, because at one point you did ask me something along the lines, I don't remember, it got lost. I was going to answer something along the lines of, it has not been easy to walk as I am in a feminine way in a world that's very masculine. And I did find that life got easier actually after I went through menopause, because I wasn't so much carried by the tide, but that women are actually really good at doing this. We're really good at building things, creating things, working with other people, and that somehow there's been some message that men are the ones who would go to work, and as though what women do is not work, which is just hilarious. But I guess that I'm really glad that you have just decided, like, pick this up and decided, hey, let's do this. Let's make this for radically alive women, to show other women that there are women out there who have figured out how to hack this patriarchal way and still be feminine. So yeah, just grateful that you picked this up and decided to run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.